you about the heart and soul of why we're doing what we're doing. Now, there was a really, really interesting article that came out. In fact, they're coming out all the time, articles about the kind of way in which AI has started to really cause issues with regards to the automation creation of internet content. And the rubbish guys have just come to collect rubbish next door. So hopefully that's not bothering you guys from a sound perspective. So I want to show you this article because this sets the scene like for why we do what we do. This came out in the Byte. A huge proportion of the internet is AI-generated slime, researchers find. The internet's steady fall into AI, the AI garbled dumpster continues. As Vice reports, a recent study conducted by researchers at AWS found that a shocking amount of the web is already made up of poor quality AI-generated and translated content. So we're in a kind of situation right now where a massive amount of social media, YouTube, etc., is automatically created with AI-generated content. Now, there's good and bad about that. The bad is that it's replacing humanity and it's replacing that human element. And this I see as a really big problem. And I'd like to stop for a second and hear what you guys have to say about it. If you go to LinkedIn, how sure are you that that LinkedIn profile is even real? Is it even a real person? How many spam messages do you get a day? How many of those are just bots just automating your messages? You know, how many of the posts, the replies to your LinkedIn posts are even actual real humans and not an automated generated algorithm? Because I know the guys that literally make millions of US dollars a month, literally millions of US dollars a month, writing these bots and automated systems that pretend to be you or pretend to be an individual on social media, replying to you as if you were a real person. I was just wondering, I'm going to take 30 seconds now just to see if anybody's had that experience or anyone wants to comment on that.
No, I'll go, Scott. Scott, I don't. Well, the problem is, I don't know if I've had that experience. Via LinkedIn, I'll get messages all the day. Do you want to sign up? Do you want to? Sorry, not sign up. Do you want to join? Link with me, and I just virtually link to everyone, and then straight away I'll get an automated message saying blah blah blah. Then I just take no notice of them. So maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but I don't get that many requests. I'm not like inundated with people wanting to connect.
Interesting. No, thanks, Gary. Jim?
Yeah, but similar to Gary, I get lots of requests, and usually a pause of 2 or 3 days. And do you want to invest? Do you want to buy? Etc. Etc. What I don't get, Scott, is I don't get into conversations with well, I don't think I get into conversations with bots. And it always feels like when I do get into conversation, when something does spark my interest, is it that point that a real person takes over? Because then it starts to become meaningful and tangible to me. So there could be something in that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing we think. And, you know, the guy that was showing me, I told you he makes $2 million a month with these automation tools. He was showing me the whole sequence of how everything's automated, the messages, the emails. I call it intelligent spam. It reads your LinkedIn profile, gets to know your personality type, and then writes an email based on your personality type and spams you with the right wording that it believes you'll understand. And it's not only pulling information from LinkedIn, it's pulling from all your social media. So it can create a message that's almost identical to something that's real. Dan Pratt, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Yes, lovely. Really good to have you on here again. Yeah, so yeah, I get loads and loads of messages. I don't know whether it's my title or my experience or whatever, but constantly, probably about 3 or 4, 5 a day, from people offering lead generations, SEO optimizations, just constant, relentless. And I started off just politely writing back saying, I'm not interested, thank you. And then they turned out to be even more persistent. So now I've gone for the strategy, just ignoring them. And then the persistence carries on. It's like, when are we, but it's quite abrupt. It's like, so when are we having this meeting? It's like, well, it's a bit presumptuous. But yeah, that's the kind of problem that I have at the moment. It's just a bit spam. And again, these are real people, but these are sales agents working for organizations that, yes. And they're obviously under pressure to hit so many leads, have so much targets, sort of driven targets around them, and that's the frustrating thing is that I want to kind of block that out. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that question.
Spot on, Dan. What we're talking about here, guys, is what's known as the dead internet. You might have heard that term. It's really the internet that's just become an automated, content-driven festival. Like, I mean, it's got so good now that if I go into my YouTube channel, they know I'm interested in rugby because I'm South African and I've been obviously following the World Cup. By the way, South Africa won the World Cup rugby. Just want to mention that in case none of you were sure about that. So anyway, so I go onto YouTube and there'll be this very, very, really good headline of a YouTube video. And that video, when I start watching it after I've been served the ads, right? I watch the ads, it's all AI generated. They've gone through and it's searched a couple of pertinent current topics that are happening in rugby at the moment, like a new law change. It's summarized it with AI. It's got an AI voice to read it. It's got an AI generated tool to then create a few little arbitrary little videos of animations, put it into a YouTube, done all the tags, uploaded it, and now it gets served up onto my channel. Completely automated, completely fake, and pretty flippin' useless. But it fools me. And this is starting to happen exponentially. One more quick point there, Paul, and I'll kind of get to the point of this. Paul.
Yeah, just part of what you're describing, Scott, sounds great. If they're tailoring content that's really ideally suited to you and everything that you're about, surely there's a positive to some of what AI is creating.
Oh, there's some great positives. So we use it, and I'll talk to you about how we use it. I think the point that I'm trying to make at the moment is that, so when I'm watching that little video of the news clip, straight away I can see well, not straight away, but within very quickly, you can see that it's AI generated and the content's just weird. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you see someone post on LinkedIn and it's just weird. It doesn't quite make sense. So I hear what you're saying, and it's kind of this very interesting situation and dilemma that we're in where AI generated content is becoming really, really good and we're getting fed stuff, but what's human and what isn't? So let me give you an example where it's not good. Somebody messages you and feigns or fakes an interest in your product or service, but they're actually a bot, and it gets you into a conversation, and maybe even get Jim, who doesn't enter conversations unless he knows the person, which I agree with. And he starts asking, but if they're interested in your product, you're going to get back to them. And then they get into a personal chat, and then they ask you questions about where you are, but they're getting all this information from you. And it's all automated. So this is where things start to become a little bit problematic. Also, people that post on your LinkedIn post, reply to your LinkedIn post, or even post on LinkedIn, they don't even go onto LinkedIn themselves. Or it's an automation bot. So I'm not against this, Paul. So you make a good point. I'm not against automation. I'm not against AI. I think it's flippin' brilliant in many ways. But the point is, like, at what point, like, do we have to really start to be worried about being scammed or be taken from people that aren't real? And that's essentially why we created My Most Trusted Network. And the best way I can explain this to you is show you. We are hopefully, so just to update you guys, especially Gary, we are currently testing the new version. And as soon as that's up and running, probably by the end of this week, we'll be ready to start rolling out all the new white labeled versions. So Startup to Stand Up is going to have its own white labeled version of what I'm going to show you. And the key is that our belief is that we want to create a decentralized, micro kind of private version of LinkedIn using many different brands, networking groups, business clubs, masterminds, etc., all having their own brand and all creating almost their mini kind of LinkedIn. The key difference is that everybody in My Most Trusted, in our network, is a real human being. And everyone is available via an introduction only. So no cold outreach. And if you want to meet decision makers, the best way to get there is via an introduction. So now what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to show you what we've done. And we started rolling out for a few other companies as well, and networking groups and organizations. I'm going to show you how I do it for another one. And then I want you just to imagine that this is going to be Startup to Stand Up. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to quickly show you how this works. All right, so to cut a long story short, My Most Trusted is a little Chrome extension, and it sits on top of, it's not plugged into LinkedIn, but it sits on top of your browser. It does work a little bit with LinkedIn, but it's not a LinkedIn automation tool. And we've really tried to find the balance between assisting and making life easier with AI, which is why I started the debate at the beginning, the discussion, versus completely going automation. So we're completely separate to LinkedIn. And as I'll reveal in a few minutes, we're actually going to be not on LinkedIn either, just purely on LinkedIn. In fact, we're going to be working on virtual platforms and other websites as well, and CRM platforms. And I'm going to show you the essence of it, right? So here I am. Now, I want you to imagine this is startup to stand up. This is an organization called Grand Connection, and they're a very fast-growing networking organization in Canada, run by two ladies that I met about 9 months ago. I think they had 10 paying members, and now they've got, I think, 234 paying members. They're really growing very quickly, very well run, very well managed. So this is a kind of typical kind of networking type organization based out of Canada. Now, when I join Grand Connection, or if I'm a Grand Connection member, I can take a look at the Grand Connection members list. All right. So I have a dashboard, and I'm not going to go into too much of the tech now. I want to show you the cool stuff. Only members can see the members in the community. So it's like a members list. So you could imagine these are all the other startup to stand up members, and only members can see the members list. But now two really cool things happen. First of all, you'll see scores next to their name, 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10. That doesn't mean that Dr. Eunice has a 2 out of 10 personality and Andrea has a 3 out of 10 personality. It's not it doesn't score you personality based on how nice you are. It rates you based on the kind of person you want to meet. So we have a little tool here called Match Me, and you'll be able to do this specifically for startup to stand up. And people I should meet should be like this. I want to meet people who own, manage, or run business networking groups, masterminds, business clubs, etc. That's basically the people I'm looking for. So you type in your target audience. Now, My Most Trusted knows who your target audience is, and it starts scoring the various people within the network, within Grand Connections, in this case. So in your case, startup to stand up. So it now helps you find people that you want to meet. Okay, so if I want to meet, let's say, for example, see, Laura Lee Kenny's 9 out of 10 because she runs something called the Blue Diamond Club. It runs it through ChatGPT, it pulls it back, and it tells you why it believes that you should meet this person. So it's basically scoring people as to who would make the best person for you to meet. I can then go to Laura, right? And Laura is a trusted connection of Joanne. And I can now ask Joanne, who's a trusted connection of mine, to please introduce me. I can see she runs the Blue Diamond Club. She's the perfect person to partner with MMT. I'd love to meet her. I click the request introduction button. It pops a message to Joanne asking for me introduction. It loads it onto the app, and she can make that introduction literally with a click of a button. Yeah, guys, please introduce each other, post it on LinkedIn, etc. So literally within minutes, I've been able to search through the other Grand Connection members of this particular group, found the people that I want to meet in that group, and requested an introduction, or I can just go to their LinkedIn profiles and just reach out to them cold. And the reason this time I can reach out to them cold is simply because we're part of the same network. We're part of the same family. So going back to what we talked about before, I think it was Jim, if I'm not mistaken. Jim's like, I don't really want to meet people or have a conversation with people I don't know. But if you're a part of Startup to Stand Up, Jim's part of Startup to Stand Up, then we can probably do a one-on-one. And I'm sure he'd be relatively happy to do a one-on-one because we're both part of the same community. So this is the first thing it does. It tells you tell the system who you want to meet, and it scores them. Then it gets even more interesting. You'll notice next to some of these guys' names, like Greg Dixon, it's got 8 trusted connections, 4 trusted connections. Patricia's got 27 trusted connections. What is happening is each of the members of Grand Connection are adding in people they know and trust out of LinkedIn. Literally just click a button. So you go to their LinkedIn, first degree LinkedIn profile, click add to my trusted connections, and you're basically separating the people you know and trust out of the mishmash that is LinkedIn. So one by one, you take them out of LinkedIn and you put them into your own private trusted network within My Most Trusted. Now you're able to see each other's trusted connections, assuming that you are either part of the same community or you're one of their trusted connections, and you can start requesting introductions outside of the network. So Patricia's, for example, has got 27 trusted connections. All right. I can go and I can look through Patricia's 27 trusted connections. I can run scores on her and I can start to see who she knows and trusts. Here's the key. Everybody in our 28,000 strong global network is a real person. There's no bots, automation, fake profiles, and everybody is a trusted connection of somebody within the network in a genuine way. So now, if I want to meet this gent here, Gaetano, I would never reach out to him cold, even though he's an 8 out of 10. I will request an introduction and ask Patricia to please introduce me. And as long as I'm not going to hard sell this guy and I talk about win-win synergies and there's a bit of an art to it, there's a 95% chance that Patricia will introduce me to him. So I can book meetings like this, left, right, and center. In fact, I get 8 to 12 meetings a day just using this tool. Straight from using the process. So now that I've loaded it, and now that I can request introductions from people I know and trust from the Grand Connection community, I can also do the same to my own trusted connections. So if you like go way, way back to LinkedIn, back in the early days where you only added people that you know and trust, well, this is what we built like that, gone back to the old days. So I can see that Darren Barch today, this morning, he's one of my trusted connections, introduced Jody, who I don't know, to Anthony Neck, who I don't know. I can see Darren added Jody. I can see Darren's had a great morning. He's a big user of ours in Australia. Toby added Andrew. And you'll see it starting to rate them out of 10 each time. And so if there's somebody who's a high score, I can simply push the button next to his name and request an introduction. So in real time, while my trusted community are adding their trusted community, I'm watching them, looking for a good referral. And if I see one, I quickly add them as a trusted connection. The last thing I'll quickly want to show you, before I'll stop and go to questions, before I'm going to show you what's even better that's coming, is the automated matching system. So even if you're so lazy that you don't want to actually put any work going through the search and going through it, all you've got to do is fill out match me, tell the system who you want to meet, and periodically it'll literally go out in the background and find you a match. So here's a match that it found for me. I was just playing around on LinkedIn. It found me a match, Randy, 9 out of 10. I can mouse over to see why it's a 9 out of 10. Is this the person I want to meet? Definitely. I can click request introduction and I can ask Tyrone to please introduce me to Randy. Boom, I've just got a referral. So the bottom line is, if you know who your target audience is and you know who you want to meet, this will match you with people from an introduction perspective to your true second degree connections. So right there and then I showed you immediately how I can request introductions and basically book meetings straight away. Let me just pause for a second, just see, does that make sense? See how it's starting to come together? And Startup to Stand Up is going to have its own version of this soon. Let me just have a bit of a pause there and just see if anyone wants to comment on that. Neil? You're on mute. No, I can't hear you.
Still again, sorry,
There we go.
both things on mute, the microphone and Zoom. It's very, very embarrassing. No, I was just wondering, looking at, say, this LinkedIn piece, the thing that sprung into my mind is there are a lot of synergies with dating and dating apps. You know, obviously the kind of end goal is different. But I sort of like last year, I actually worked on a dating app that maybe I'll be coming back actually. But that whole idea of actually finding matches and being able to understand how you might connect with somebody and some synergies and some shared interests and things like that, they're all very important things in I guess, business relationships. So I was just wondering if you'd actually looked at, because I know actually, strangely enough, Bumble do actually have a business networking element to it, which is you know, an interesting spin on that. But yeah, it was just a thought on if you looked at those, and maybe it could be an interesting thing about how to relate people for potential working.
It's an interesting one, Neil. So probably the number one difference between dating. So if just everybody in this group right now who's on this call, just imagine for a second you're single. How many of you would know exactly the person you want to meet and have actually written it down point by point, just like you would your target audience in a business? I'm just interested. Put your hand up. Philippa, maybe. Yeah. Okay, possibly. But generally, most of us don't. So when we're dating, we kind of want that element of surprise. Business is a little bit different. You should really know your target market of who you want to meet in business and know that niche and know that audience. Would that be fair to say? Otherwise, Neil, aside from that, I would say you're exactly right. It's very similar. You want to meet people. So we don't match people based on your interests in business and we think you're going to meet them. We match people based on the people you say you want to meet. So if you want to meet chartered accountants on the East Coast of the USA, or you're specifically looking to meet people in the property industry in southwest of London, then that's your target audience. And those people are going to be rated higher. So it's all comes down to what you put in is ultimately what you get out. Neil, does that kind of...
It does, but actually in your explanation, I'd actually say it's infinitely more like dating. If what you've actually said, I worked on an app which was for British Indians, and actually where religion, diet, culture was incredibly important. Those specifications and those sections you're putting in, I think, are very true. That element of specifically where you are, what life point you're at, where you want to start a relationship in regards to, I guess, what kind of C-suite or management or employment or all of these kind of things are different types of relationships. I think there are potentially a lot of synergies, but anyway, that's just my thought.
No, you actually make a good point, and I guess it's you know, Neil, I do stand corrected. I'm thinking about Bumble and Tinder and all that when they 15 years ago. I'm way out of date. So yeah, with those dating apps. But you're right. Now it is. You're right. Diet, religious, These are the different preferences. In other words, you're more likely to know the kind of person you want to meet now. Whereas kind of back then it was a little bit more random. But you're absolutely spot on. So you're right. It probably is quite like dating. The important thing from a business perspective is that you know who you want to meet. So let's talk about like some of the problems we have. I mean, you have meeting after meeting after meeting, and you're meeting great people, but how often does it turn into business? A lot of times you're kind of doing a lot of meetings, but it's not converting into actual business. What we're now creating is the ability, and this is going to be something we're going to be rolling out by March, hopefully earlier, is that when you're on a virtual live meeting like we're on now, like Startup to Stand Up, let's, 10 of us onto this call now, 11 of us. So what it's going to do behind the scenes, it's going to go through Philippa's trusted connections, Paul's trusted connections, Edward's, Dan, etc. And it's going to look through your trusted connections based on who I'm looking to meet. So if I'm looking to meet chartered accountants in London, it's going to go, Paul, I've just been matched with Simon Smith, who's a chartered accountant, who's a trusted connection of Paul. So now I can either ask Paul and say, listen, let's have a one-on-one, Paul, because I would really like to meet this person perfect in my target market, or book a one-on-one with Paul. Or if I already know Paul, I can quickly say, Paul, won't you quickly introduce me to Simon, because I'm looking to get in front of CAs. For the first time now, we can have a glimpse into each other's private networks and actually see, and in the authenticity and genuineness of that, request an introduction. So we've now started, as you know, this is like our business problem. And for those of you who've heard me from a business perspective in Startup to Stand Up before, right now we're stuck between a startup and a hard place. And that's my line, by the way. So we're past the startup. We've got users, we've got some of the biggest networking groups of thousands of members coming on board in our tool. Our biggest issue has been like, how do we monetize that? But the point is right now is we just want to create a fantastic product. And how do we get people connecting? So while you're in a group like this, it's searching through your trusted connections, and you can literally book and get a referral live on the meeting. Those are the kind of things that we're building now, and that's going to be available on the Startup to Stand Up Chrome extension shortly.
Scott, Philippa had a question.
Yeah, Philippa.
Yeah, sorry, it's probably a really stupid question. When we add these people as our trusted network, do they know we've added them? Do they have to like click to approve, or is it just us saying, look, I know this is a real person?
I saw, yeah, right. I saw that in the chat. Sorry, I should have answered your question. Okay, good point. The other, when you add somebody as a trusted connection, they don't know you've added them unless you send them a message. It brings up a template that you can edit if you want to send or not, but you don't have to. This is your Rolodex. This is your pocketbook, your old address book. And you're writing down the names of people that you know and trust, and you're keeping them in your own, it's your own private network. You only tell them if you want to. Yeah, it doesn't automatically go, hey, Philip, I just added you to their trusted. No, it only unless you choose to. From a privacy perspective, we're trying to get away from where we believe social media is going, which is just data being given away to every person left, right, and center. Your private network is your private network, and it remains in the sanctity of that network. So, yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. So we'll be taking you guys through this soon, you know, once it's ready, and we'll have that there. But I mean, how are you guys? Yeah, more comments, feedback. I'm really interested in the debate. We're always looking to find ways of improving, of how we can make it better. But more importantly, you know, have I explained it well enough? Edua, haven't heard from you. What do you think?
Yeah, I was really interested. I mean, it's a great way to meet your target audience, and I'm a big fan of collaborations, and growing my business that way. So what you're offering is really interesting to me. I'm just trying to take it all in.
No, wonderful. Thank you. You're right. You mentioned the attitude of looking for collaborations, partnerships, win-wins. So it's not just about looking for customers. So if you've got an IT product and you're looking to sell that IT product to lawyers, for example, then you can book tons of meetings with lawyers. So if you search for lawyer under LinkedIn in London, you're going to get 1 million results, right? With us, you might get 8. But those 8 are real people that are reachable through an introduction. It's a complete, that's where we're changing the game. Everyone in our network is real and genuine. And you might have to meet the trusted connection, chat to them, how best to be introduced. But at least now you've got a mindset of, when I meet this lawyer, I'm not going to necessarily try and flog them. I'm going to do a soft sell. Let's get to know each other, have a chat, and see if we can build that up. So what we're doing is very much in line with the soft sell methodology, as opposed to the hard sell. If you're a hardcore salesman and you just want to just sell, you're going to crash and burn. No one's going to want to introduce you to their contacts.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Edward. Anyone else want to mention anything? No. Gary, how, oh, there, Dave. Yeah. Good to see you, Dave.
Yeah, hi. Sorry I've been off camera. I've been doing a bit of long overdue office renovation, which I said I'd do over Christmas and didn't. I just want to say, because obviously this is right in my space, right? And I've had a one-to-one with Scott, and I've looked through the platform. And not that my seal of approval means anything, but I was really skeptical going into my conversation with Scott, because I think when you try and, I was worried that it was another platform that over-automated and over-digitized the relationship building thing. I actually think it's just what all it is a really clever tool that helps facilitate introductions and speed up some of the process. You still need to know who you're looking for. You still need to know the value you want to deliver them, so your messaging's right. But in terms of just speeding up that process of helping people to help you, yeah, it's a winner from me. So that was all. I just thought I'd say, yeah, nice work.
I love you, Dave. Thank you, mate. No, I really appreciate that, man. That's really great. And what Dave has brought up is something that we do. One of the issues we do have is that initial skepticism. It's people are like very like, what's this? What are they trying to do here? What are this? Because we're so inundated with tech, and especially tech that's got an ulterior motive. You know, you join something and then you sold the cryptocurrency later. It's just relentless. And what we're doing is we really want to get people to really understand that this is not like that. And that's why working with a startup to stand up, as startup to stand up will have their own branded version of this product. And that's why we work. We're creating a decentralized, I call it a swarm. And you know, there's never going to be a single company that's going to be a competitor to LinkedIn. It's not going to happen, right? But if we create a swarm of little brands all working in authenticity in their own little families in their own way, connected together, then that's going to become a reasonable alternative or supplement to LinkedIn. And that's what we're creating. And because startup to stand up is a family and people know each other, you very quickly trust each other. You can make meetings. You can still, it's just turbocharging what startup to stand up is already offering from a networking perspective. That's all we're doing. And that's what we want to do. We want to make brands like Startup to Stand Up grow. People who bring humans together in business. We want to support you guys. Because by doing that, we can create an environment where somebody who's, when people out there are starting to really get disillusioned with their social media or whatever they're doing, and they're sick of the bots and the spam, let's give them a place that they can come to that's truly authentic and genuine. And that's what Startup to Stand Up is, unless I've misinterpreted you, but I don't think I have. Hey, Gary. Yeah. Brilliant. This is, I really want this to be an open discussion. I mean, in terms of time, I don't want to sort of take up too much time. I've got a ton of more stuff I can show you if you're interested. I just don't want to inundate you guys with tech. I'm more interested in hearing about you guys in terms of your issues and problems. So yeah, guys, I'm kind of in your hands. Does anyone, how would you like to take the conversation further? Gary?
Scott, I mean, if anyone here wants to see more of the stuff, I mean, I've seen quite a few bits of it anyway. So I've looked through it. I mean, it'd be good to do this and another follow-up once we get the platform gone, so we can actually show everyone how it works. Because I think what it is quite mind-blowing with all the everything that's there. Obviously, you know what that is. I had a couple of questions around, and like you said, DATs. Actually, I think you're beginning telling us about the AI and all that inundated with you don't know who it is, and now you go, okay, well, if I put myself in this network, then at least when I'm going to get messages, I know who it's from. So it sort of I quite like that as a seller. The other question is the only problem might be, will there be people who inundate other people with messages saying, can you introduce, and you're not one of them people?
So very interestingly, what we've discovered is it's very, in fact, we have to try and encourage people to feel good about requesting an introduction. There's a lot of hesitancy, requesting referral hesitancy out there. It's almost like you don't feel worthy of getting an introduction. So there's a mismatch in terms of the psychology. So for example, Philippa might be too scared to ask Dan to introduce him to a chartered accountant, right? And she feels, well, I don't know if he's really going to introduce me. I know Dan really well, and he's a great guy, but why would he introduce me? Like he might think I'm trying to sell or something. And part of the psychology of what we do is got to overcome that, because Dan would love nothing better, Philippa, than to introduce you to his friend, the CA. So there's a mismatch in psychology. People love giving referrals. We love it, especially if it's genuine and we've met that person and it's a good one. And if you're not quite ready to make that introduction yet, book a one-on-one first, really get to know the person, find out, and then structure a way together to meet that person. So you're right. So to answer your question, Gary, we never have the problem. Our problem is the opposite. Not enough people are requesting introductions because they feel that hesitancy. And that's one of the things we need to train and coach and help people feel comfortable with. Let me quickly show you then. You asked to this. So this is what's coming. I'm using the core version of My Most Trusted now. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview then from a tech perspective of fully what this baby can do. So one of the first things it does, and I'm going to use Dan as an example here. So this appears on LinkedIn, and I just want to reiterate the fact that we're not a LinkedIn plugin or automation tool. We kind of work with LinkedIn a little bit from a convenience perspective, but everything we do is outside of LinkedIn, and we don't scrape data behind the scenes, only first degree. So, and we don't automate anything. So it's really important to know that, because a lot of people look at us and go, oh my God, this is a Chrome extension LinkedIn automation tool. We're not like that. So I just need to make that clear. So you'll see this little row of icons underneath, and this starts to make LinkedIn really useful. So maybe Dan isn't the best person, but anyway, it'll do. So these little row of icons. So first of all, it's given Dan a 6 out of 10. Once again, not for his personality, but for whether he meets the criteria of I want to meet that person. I still meet people even if they're low scores, but I prioritize the higher scores because it means there's someone that's exactly in my target audience that I want to meet. So it gives them the score. This little button over here, if I click on it, it means I can introduce Dan to one of my trusted connections. This is a personality test. So what ChatGPT does, and you guys might like this, is it uses DISC, Myers-Briggs, and Enneagram to guess, based on Dan's profile, what his personality is like. So based on the limited information provided, obviously, the more information you have in your LinkedIn profile, the better this is going to be. It's difficult to determine where it'd fall on DISC. Similarly, so he doesn't have a lot here. Usually it does, actually, but here it is here. So 3 things that make this person excited would be working on challenging business problems, finding innovative solutions, building strong relationships with clients and helping them achieve their goals, being able to contribute to the growth and success of a company or organization. So that's not a great one. Usually it does a pretty good job. You have to have a pretty detailed LinkedIn profile. Let's see what Steve, let me see if I can give you another example here of Steve. Let's get Steve's personality. So I can do a personality test. Let's just let that load in the background quickly while it does that. While it's just loading that, because it's got to go to, there we go. On the DISC profile, he'd probably fall under the influence category, which is exactly where Steve falls. And it tells you why. On Myers-Briggs, he would probably be categorized as an extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judging. He's outgoing, focused on personal connections and authenticity, and has a strong desire to make an impact. On the Enneagram personality test, he might score a type 3, the achiever, driven by success, focused, etc., etc. So it summarizes his LinkedIn profile and actually looks at his personality. And you can even ask ChatGPT to write him a message. So based on his LinkedIn profile, so for example, using the information in his LinkedIn profile, write a letter to this person, inviting them to a free industry event, and write it like a rap song. So you can actually... You can actually write a message from then using so you can have a bit of fun with it using ChatGPT running against the LinkedIn profile. You'll notice that Steve's a super connector. He has 115 trusted connections. So this little eye icon allows me to view all 115 of his trusted connections. And then what we've done is we've actually mimicked the LinkedIn search. So you can search by job title, country, city, company, industry, etc. So you can actually use the search to specifically go and find people within Steve's network. So I can look at Steve's network, and I can actually run the scores on Steve's network, or I can just manually take a look at each of these people. Once again, I'll reiterate, these are real people. Real. Every single person is real. There's no fake people or anything. This is a genuine, legitimate. Everybody's meticulously one by one added them to their trusted connections. So I can view his trusted connections. This is what I wrote before. I showed you before about asking AI to write a custom message. It just takes you straight to this little AI custom message. And I can also get his details. So if I want to get his name, details, email address, phone number, I can, I shouldn't probably do that live on a live recording. Sorry, Steve. He's a great guy though. He'll love you to phone him and say hello. But you can get his details as well. And write notes about him, that sort of thing. So it's not ever meant to replace a CRM, but this is like your own private trusted network within it. And then we have the trust-o-meter. Now, the trust-o-meter is the o-meter that you can trust. The trust-o-meter allows you to go up and gamify the different stages that you're on. So right now, Steve Dart is currently on what they call super connector status. When you first join, and this will happen with Startup to Stand Up, you'll all start as a newbie. And we make it very easy to become a junior networker. You just got to add a trusted connections. You've got to make an introduction and request a referral, and you'll get to junior networker. Then you go to junior networker to senior networker, which is a little bit more difficult. And then you can get to super networker. And then ultimately your goal is to reach trusted advocate. So when you see somebody on the trust-o-meter who's senior networker or higher, you know that they're a giver and a receiver. They're not just here to take, they make introductions as well. And this is the aura that we want to get across in our brand, that people give as well as receive. So this little trust-o-meter and it will gamify it. It actually shows you how to move it up. And if you go to your dashboard, it shows you what you need to do to the next level. So in this case, to reach next level senior networker, you need to give 2 more golden recommendations, and there's a little help video there. So it shows you how to move your way up the trust meter by giving, etc. And we have golden recommendations. A golden recommendation is where you publicly recommend somebody. It's not like a silly LinkedIn recommendation where half the world does it. Half of the recommendations I've got are just people giving me a recommendation just to make me feel good about myself so they can sell me something. Here, these people have put their name to it and said, Scott, Steve Dart, we trust you. So I can go to Peter Rea and say, I see you've dealt with Steve Dart. Can you confirm that he's a legit guy? Da, 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 da. So these golden recommendations really help you build credibility within the trusted network as well. So you can see that Steve is an absolutely legit guy. Like, this is somebody everybody recommends, everybody likes. He's a giver, he's a taker, and he's very good at what he does. So this is how the kind of my most trusted process works. And then most of what I showed you is also available in the dashboard as well. So you can do your search, you can create tell the AI, and you can adjust your settings of what the AI is looking to, who you're looking to be matched with. Circles, I won't go into that now. That's like our version of LinkedIn chat. It keeps a record of your referral history. So when you introduce 2 people to each other, right, it's amazing, but nobody ever follows up, including me. And I made 1,024 last year introductions, and I didn't follow up any of them. So I'm like, I suck at following up. So now we're going to move it. We need to move it to a new place. It's hidden at the moment. I need to get the developer to move it. There's a follow-up button. So if I go to if I go down and here, so I introduced Mark to Liz, right? Sorry, let me do, I introduced Andrea to Taylor. If I want to follow up, I can just click follow up. And then what it will do is, this is a dev version, by the way, so we're still in testing. So if it doesn't work, it's not live yet. See, it builds the LinkedIn chat and actually builds it. Hi, Taylor. Hi, Andrea. Did you manage to meet? If so, how did you 2 get on? I need to fix the spelling there. So it creates a template little message that I can now follow up. Now, I originally made this connection request by My Most Trusted automatically creating the 3-way LinkedIn group chat and introduced. I said, hi, Taylor, allow me to introduce you to Andrea. Andrea, Taylor asked to meet you. She's NSA and looking for da 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 da. Probably not the best intro, but nonetheless, it shows you how it works. Now, when you make an introduction to somebody, now this is going to be really useful for startup to stand up. I'm going to show you what happens. It actually creates a LinkedIn message. So you see what I've done here? This LinkedIn post, sorry, not message. Look here, it created a LinkedIn post. I've just introduced 2 amazing people to each other, Mary and Andrew Sykes. And then it's ChatGPT, using My Most Trusted, has created a really nice message for them, introducing Andrew, the remarkable CEO of Habits at Work, Kellogg professor, TEDx speaker, etc. Mary, exceptional executive wellbeing coach, author, I hope you 2 make business magic together. Thanks, My Most Trusted Network. This will say, thanks, My Most Trusted Network, and it'll actually tag Startup to Stand Up. So thanks, Startup to Stand Up. It'll actually tag the Startup to Stand Up thing, LinkedIn page, and hashtags as well. So Gary, you can customize this message to Startup to Stand Up. So it posts on LinkedIn. People will start liking it, and some people, they'll even start sometimes commenting on it. Sometimes they actually go quite fast. Sometimes they actually get a lot of traction. Sometimes they don't. But we try to help with LinkedIn's algorithm so that you'll actually be posting, and it gives traction for both you. It gives a punt to the person, and it actually also gives a punt to the network Startup to Stand Up.